as an instructor, I learned a lot of things. One was have some cards. You don't lose your, man, y'all are really worked up. I'm not really a crier, so if you have wagers on that, I hate to disappoint. Yeah, that's always the thing, right? Is when's he gonna shed the tear? It's like a Vegas thing at this point, I'm sure. But sir, thanks for the words. I mean, it's all true. That was actually one of my little pieces in here. How I got sat down-ish. But no, I just want to thank everyone in the command team that's back here, the narrator, I mean, my fellow peers that are here, directing traffic, the Marines that worked outside, getting this room set up, putting it all together. Like, thank you a lot. I know it goes into it. Put a few of these things together before, so I can appreciate the time and effort that it takes. Thank you for that. Yeah, we'll get to that. So I think I've thought about today probably more than I should have. But I'd wager I've probably thought about it as much as everyone else who's ever been up here. It's been a pretty big thing for the last couple of months, waking up in the morning knowing I can look at the phone and see the countdown happen. Another day ticked off. And what was great was I was at 29 Palms. My wife and I, years ago, became believers in everything happens for a reason. And I think that's why I went there. Because the unit shut down and I could take care of me and not involve or impact anyone else negatively. At all the time in the world I need, and that's rare. And I certainly appreciated that. I'm not going to blow your mind today with some philosophical leadership idea that I've hoarded to myself for 20 years and am only now letting it out. I don't do those things. But I am going to ask a question, a favor, a challenge, however you want to put it, to the Marines that are still staying in. And this is officers and enlisted, specifically staff and COs. We have a really bad habit of becoming captured, chained down to our desks. And I think it doesn't serve us well, and it doesn't serve our Marines well. I really make it a point to go outside as often as I can and be around Marines. Not necessarily doing the work, right? Because I know the old heads in here are like, man, screw you. I already got my t-shirt. And you're right, you do. But we're a little older now. Our t-shirts, when we got them, our young Marines were grade school, right? They don't know that we had those shirts. So go out there every once in a while and be there. Be around them, mentor them, take an opportunity to teach them. Show them the right way after they pay. It pays dividends. I've built my career on it. So that's my one thing for you to do. Man, I've memorized all that. That's pretty good. So let's get to some thank yous. The around the world thank yous. I've had a lot of Marines help me out. It really does take a village. Right? You don't get here by yourself. And I believe when I tell you there are too many Marines to list off that helped me get here. They took a lot. I'm a project. She'll tell you it's not easy. I can't name them all. We'd be here till Wednesday next week. And I don't have that kind of time. I gotta go. I have a lot of nothing to do. But I'm going to name a few names. First one is Master Sergeant Thurman. So PFC Howerton, in his very first unit, was impacted tremendously by Master Sergeant Thurman. Wise old guy, real slow moving, like dual knee brace kind of, beat up. 03, we were sent to deploy, initial surge. I ended up with a pretty bad medical issue that took me out of that. And I didn't know then, but you grow up, you get a little wiser. It put me in a hole, a rut, and he talked me out of that. He's the reason I landed at Fort Leonard Wood. He called the monitor, and I didn't even know that was a thing, because back in our days, like, you didn't ask questions. 7 COs didn't talk to PFCs and Lance Corporal. That didn't happen. he got me orders for Leonardwood, and that's the second place I want to bring up. For Leonardwood. And Troy will tell you, it really pushed us to learn how to be a professional Marine. You didn't have time to goof off in front of students. You have to shed the childishness of our first four and grow up. And I believe that really set me on a path to success in the future. So I'm eternally grateful to the Master Sergeant and to the hundreds of people that I met at Fort Leonardwood for helping push me to be the professional that I somewhat eventually became, maybe. The next guy is Lieutenant Colonel Scott, for a multitude of reasons. Yet we're both family guys. He's an amazing father, husband, but sir, you're the standard by which I've measured all officers that I've served with. The work ethic blew my mind. I mean, it was almost frustrating. I mean, there would be nights I'd go in the office and, I mean, it's 2,300. And he's going crazy. Did you go eat? Like, we didn't do any mid rats or? So we set him up a white line in his office so I could make him, make sure he's talking to his family. And get to see the children and wife as frequently as possible. But the way he took care of Marines, the amount of work, time, and effort put in, and what we had to deal with and conquer out there was, and it wasn't even the enemy. I mean, it was rough. RUFF. It was quite a task. So ever since then, like, anytime I've had, young officers, had the privilege to work with them, set them up, always try to give them a little bit of, do your work ethic. It doesn't matter if it takes longer, you stay and do. And it got me in trouble at the max. I got another talking to there because I towed the line. But it was so worth it because he's now a company commander in Okinawa, super successful company, Robbie. Great guy. I've had some amazing officers and Marines, NCOs, enlisted guys that I've worked with. Last two I want to talk to you about, both Sergeant Major. One of them is Ricky Hall, the other one is Josh Rubel. They were both in Max 2. They both had massive impacts on my career as a fledgling gunnery sergeant and as a newly selected Master Sergeant. Ricky Hall, bright, wise, he's an old head. We really got along great. He opened the door late, stayed late. I mean, we'd go to Oak Club on base and, eat a meal and have a drink and talk about what was going on. And I got a lot from him. Joshua was the exact same way. Another sergeant major that for staff NCOs, hey, I gotta call you back. He'd hang the phone up. What you got? Take a seat, and we just talked through whatever the challenge was. And he kind of would give me the guidance and coaching I needed to get me to where the right answer was. And it was invaluable. Even though I only had one more unit after the max, I was able to immediately employ the lessons that they taught me. So for all those Marines, like, massive impact on my career, and I certainly wouldn't be here without it. The other part of your village, from obviously your Marine side, is a support network. And if you've ever deployed, which most of us in this room have, you can't do it without a good support network. You gotta have folks back home that can send you a care package or a letter. I think my Aunt Tony, she's here. She used to send me those, like a letter. I guess you typed it and sent it to somewhere, and it would print out, and then postal would get it, and we'd get it same day. Those were invaluable. Like, just, even though it's a grainy, horribly printed black and white photo, you still could tell, like, oh my goodness, that's home, and it's those little things really matter. But this is my support group. Everybody on this side, they've been better than I could have ever prayed for. My mom and dad are here today. And I paused there for a minute. I was talking to my mom, and it's not common to have mom and dad at your 20-year retirement. Like, that's definitely the exception, it's not the norm. And that was surprising when I told her that. I've had young Marines check in at the max. Already have, parents that have passed or grew up in a foster system, or, raised by their grandparents. So I realize and am grateful that I've been blessed enough to not only have them here, but they've been in my corner cheering me on for 20 years now, and I couldn't have done it without you. I'm certainly glad that you made it to so many of my little events, promotions, re-enlistments, and all those things. My mother-in-law's here all the way from Ohio. She made the trip. Kathy's, I don't know what she was thinking when she opened the door. 19-year-old me bust through with the, well, I'm not gonna tell you what I was wearing because now it's embarrassing. But it was definitely some 90s holdover threads coming on. But thank you for everything. She's been there for Jen and the girls. I did the math. Her and I've been physically separated for almost 7 years out of our marriage. And that's a long time. That's a lot of days and hours and weeks of doing everything. And Kathy's always been there to be a rock for Jennifer and, cheerleader for the girls and to push them. So thank you very much for that. My siblings, I know I'm going to have some watching online. My sister's here today. Her and her husband both serve. We grew up a little bit separated in years, but we both landed in the same occupation. We both served. Blessed to have such a patriotic family, and really proud of all of them and what they've accomplished. And my aunts and uncles have quite a few, I think, for me. I don't know. But they always told me when I go home, hey boy, don't you get out. You stay in and get your 20. They all served like a long time ago. But they all said it, so there had to be some truth to it, so I did it. That was a lot of the reason why I stuck around. And sadly, a lot of them are not here with us anymore, but they were a big part of my life, and I appreciated that. My brother-in-law, Jake, he's here, lipstick lieutenant in the back there. Super proud of you, man. Teenager when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And now he trumps me a little bit in rank.
It's that cheesecake, bud.
Yeah.
Started a skill there.
That's where I got my COD skills from over there. Some people in this room know what COD is. But that's it. It's been a wild ride. I have no regrets. I get asked, how did you know it was time? And would you change anything? I wouldn't change a thing. I've had the opportunity to serve with some of America's finest men and women. I don't regret becoming a Marine at all, ever. It was the greatest thing I've ever done. I had a blast the whole way. Recruit training, looking back on it, was not so bad. It could have been worse, I guess. But I've had some amazing friends, and it's been a great ride. So appreciate everyone coming out. They shouldn't call these retirements; they should call them reunions. Because some of these folks, I haven't seen since high school or maybe once. So really cool. But thank you all so much for coming out, sir. Again, thank you for putting this thing together. The command team. It means a lot. My family and I truly appreciate it. Before I walk off and sit my tail down, I gotta thank my girls and my wife. If you know me at all, you know that my girls are my whole world. They always have been. We did sit up forever talking about what the latest school project or whatever it was, but I'm gonna brag on them a little bit, so hope you're ready. my Abby, she's a senior, gonna be graduating high school, and is halfway done with her associates. Like, and it's not, that did not come from this guy. My mom and daddy will tell you I was a pain in the ass. So, super proud of you for all that you've accomplished, and I know she's gonna be a doctor. It's gonna happen. And then my little Kirsten is nipping on her heels. She's not very far behind, a freshman this year. Does really great in school. They're both super polite, very well mannered. Hearts are bigger than they ever will be, and I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you stuck it out. Not that you had a choice, but I'm glad you stuck it out. And when you get a little older, you'll realize what your sacrifices were. But those of us in here who've been in for a while, who have children, we know what your sacrifices are. So thank you. And then last but not least, my beautiful bride. We're done.
You're married again.
Yeah, I get to be a married guy. Now Jennifer's been my rock. Frankly, she's the reason I was promoted to corporal. She probably did more NCIs than I did. I can say that shit now. But it was, I mean, like, I'm not lying. It was touch and go for a minute, like math for Marines. That's yours. But she's been my rock, my biggest cheerleader, and obviously been there through it all, and never once faltered. And I mean, damn, like we went to Pendleton, and 2 months later, I'm gone for a year. No friends, no family, nothing for her. Figured it out. One in a car seat and a toddler. I mean, it was tough. And she handled it with poise and grace, and, you know, all the cool adjectives you could sprinkle in there to make it saucy. But I love you. I'm glad today is coming and going, so we can get back to being husband and wife, and not Master Sergeant and his spouse. You know what I mean?
I'll have a name.
Yeah. Be Mr. and Mrs. Jennifer. Just leave me out. So, but no, thank you all for coming so much. I appreciate it. I love you all, and super proud.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of Anchors Away in the Marine Hymn.